Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study, and it's time for camp notes for today, August 11th from the Castle, the 15th day of camp for the Ravens. The temperature, I would say, was approximately 90. The sun was absolutely blistering today. Shells and shorts for the players, no pads today. Usual set of absentees, maybe a couple differences here. Emory Jones, Ardarius Washington, Isaiah likely out for long-term reasons. We mentioned that both Longer Beam and Kone have become the first two Ravens to move to IR officially for the year. So they're both there as of yesterday. Marcus Major still out with a concussion. He was back on the field yesterday. I guess he was running because he's on the sideline actually wearing his uniform. But today he wasn't there again, so I wonder about it. And obviously, there's reason for concern if it's been this long. William Kwenku, the linebacker, unknown why he's not there, but he's now missed a couple days in a row at least. So we'll be waiting to see if he plays against Dallas on Saturday night. Kyle Hamilton, Keaton Mitchell, and Jair Alexander are supposedly all fine. They have minor camp injuries. That's the word that Harbaugh is giving us. Now, he doesn't know us anything in terms of telling us when these players are good. If this was some sort of a competitive advantage he's trying to gain for week one by not admitting to serious injuries now, that's fine. That's part of what he probably should be doing as a coach. I'm from what I'm hearing in the tone of his voice, I would guess that these guys are going to be ready week one and they'll be back before then. But we did watch a couple of very significantly lingering injuries last year, and probably the most significant one was Tyler Linderbaum, who had that neck problem that kept him out for a lot of camp. And I do hope that Kyle Hamilton is back and that he and Starks gain some familiarity with each other on the back end that maybe they don't quite have nailed down yet. I'm sure Kyle Hamilton is still there in the meeting rooms, and that's going well, looking at film, and that's probably going well. So anyway, hopefully that ties itself out. Of course, Keaton Mitchell was explosive as hell on Thursday night. It would be a tragedy if he were lost for any significant amount of time. And I don't expect him to play the rest of the preseason regardless. I think it's extremely unlikely he'd play against Dallas after missing the start of this week. I think they'll go ahead with the rest and at least get him through that. And once you're there, it's the third preseason game, and I don't see why he would play in that. The Ravens have picked up two additional running backs, where they have additional running backs they could do. Dearness Johnson, who was there for the first preseason game and took the lion's share of the carries, but they added another one, Myles Gaskin, a former seventh-round pick of the Dolphins from, I think, about 2019, had a couple 450-plus yard seasons with the Dolphins. He could be a guy who shoulders a very heavy preseason workload in that these next two games. And so I think they'll probably want to reduce Ali's carries as well. Derrick Henry, I'm sure, won't play. So you just don't have a lot of options at this point. Marcus Major is still out with a concussion. So that's where they stand at running back. It's a fairly thin lot. What else do we want to talk about here? Let's talk about what the offensive line was doing in this game. They're working on blitz pickups. This is not the game that in the practice. They're working on blitz pickups on the side, which is interesting. They can't really choreograph that as well as you would like, but they try and replicate it in terms of a player coming from level two and the center needing to hand off a block that he's got there. A lot of the drills today on the offensive line were center handoffs of a player. Center is often helping another player with his block and to pass that off. He's often the guy who will pick up a blitzing player if it's between the A gaps. So anyway, that was something interesting to watch. They had more center blocking exchanges with a quarterback in play, so they would snap the ball. The center would, and Corey Bullock, for example, and others were working on that. Corey Bullock's rise, by the way, just amazing to me. I was shocked that he was in the game to start it on Thursday night, and yesterday at practice, Harbaugh had some positive things to say about him and appears to be excited to continue the project. I don't know if Nick Samac will at some point move ahead of him, or if they really are looking for a bigger player at center. And Bullock is a guy who could be potentially very versatile. He's played all three. He was listed as a guard center, so he'd take tackle in college. He's 6'3", 320. He's certainly a guy, and he's still in his first year, so he has 4 full years with the team left, whereas Samac has 3. There's lots of reasons why, if Bullock were an equivalent player to Samac, why they think they'd rather stay with Corey. Worked on drive blocking a little bit, normal stuff, and get under, lift up, and push kind of thing, and roller skate that opponent player backwards. The entire team then got together, did their set and snap drills, and they had 2 fields going. There's one wrinkle in it today that I can't say it didn't happen before, but I didn't notice it before, and so it's maybe worth bringing up. So for the defense, they had 10 defenders on, but there's an 11th man who was a coach, who was a slot cornerback / overhang role, moving around between kind of an inside linebacker spot, a slot corner spot, up to the line of scrimmage to threaten blitz. But basically, he's challenging the offense in another dimension to read the defense as it might look in a game situation. So is that slot corner potentially a blitz? Then a line call needs to be made. Is there a player in level 2 on that side? Well, they might need to switch out of a play they had. Anyway, it gives the offense one more thing to worry about. Not that they're doing that great with all the things they do have to worry about, and an opportunity to make changes to the line of scrimmage. It was a good day, by the way, for false starts. On one false start in 11 on 11, Lamar slammed the ball down when it occurred. He might be getting a little frustrated. He certainly showed it on that play. But it may have also just been a play that he really wanted to run, and then they didn't get the chance because of a false start, and that was kind of a bummer to him. We didn't see any of Tyler Loop, the kicker, today, other than to make a few faux kicks. He basically went through the motions of kicking in front of a field goal block and field goal blocking team that were trying to get themselves aligned and able to perform their mission on the field. So Luke didn't have a part in today's practice in terms of putting the ball between the uprights. The guy who did was Jordan Stout. So they don't have a backup kicker anymore. So that means they don't have anyone else who could kick an extra point if things went bad, or even step in the next week. But Jordan Stout, I think he has some experience kicking extra points. He may have kicked in college, but he kicked. He looked reasonably good. He kicked the ball pretty much straight. Tyler Linderbaum was his holder. Of course, Stout can't hold for himself, so that something needed to happen there. And Tyler did, I thought, a good job. And I eagerly await to hear what the coaching review of this is like. I don't think they'll give us a lot, obviously, but I would like to know what they think about Stout basically being able to make almost extra point length kicks. Reasonably regularly if he was asked to do so for a 2 or 3 game period. All right, so now we'll move on. We'll do all the highlights on 11 and 11 and 7 on 7. I'll just read those off in the book as I've been doing the last few days. We did have a drop early in practice. Mark Andrews kind of went sliding to the ground 5 yards towards the left sideline, dropped the ball. Unfortunate, it does happen, and it wasn't a super easy catchable ball. There were some other drops during his practice that were, really bad drops. This wasn't a super bad drop, but it's a ball Andrews I think would normally catch. Then we had Jackson go for Bateman, incomplete, 5 yards between the numbers and the left hash. We underneath coverage we had there was Wiggins. So Wiggins put together a few good plays in a row here. There was another pass to Tylan Wallace, about 15 yards between the numbers and the left hash, also covered by Wiggins, that went incomplete as well. And I think I should say numbers in the right hash. That's the way I have the visual memory of that play, even though I've got it written down here differently in my book. Then 8 dropped back to pass, and Brent Urban got his paws up and knocked the ball down at the line of scrimmage. He then threw a pass to Dayton Wade that was 5 yards by the right sideline. Wade just dropped the ball. Wade has had some problems with drops in this camp. Anyway, we had a run by 30. That's Dearness Johnson to the right. Nice good block there by Baylor Cupp on that play. I did not see who he was blocking, but it really sprung Johnson for a fairly big gain on the left side. This was a day, by the way, the Ravens defense got gashed a number of times by the Ravens offense in the run game. They had a lot of trouble stopping it. And in fact, particularly with the twos and threes. They had some good long stretches of quality plays. So we'll get to them a little bit later. We had a pass from Rush to Johnson. It was about 5 yards by the right sideline. And we saw Chandler Martin, the linebacker from Memphis, come up and make a very quick tackle. Interesting play developed next. And this is, it just ended up being like a little 5-yard pass that was a do nothing. But the defense was extremely confused before the play. I didn't feel like the offense, I mean, they were trying to push each other around. No, you go over there. No, I belong over here kind of thing. And it's the kind of thing where if you're the quarterback and you see that happening, you probably could take advantage of that under normal circumstances. But Rush could not figure out exactly how to do that. I'm sorry. I think Lamar Jackson was still on. No, it was Rush. Rush was on the field on that play. Then we had Jason Jones come in and get a pass defense at the line of scrimmage. The ball kind of floated up in the air into level 3, and Harbaugh's been talking about getting the balls and converting more opportunities for interceptions and whatnot. This was definitely an interception opportunity. There was somebody on the back end. I didn't notice whether it was Kane or Breed or Starks even, but whichever one of those 3 was on the field, the ball landed not too far from him, and he might have been able to make a diving play on it possibly. All right. We had a nice pressure by Roquan Smith. Came through the right B gap for pressure. And interesting that Lamar Jackson kind of did a four-handed pitch, I'll call it, to 22 to Derrick Henry to get rid of the football. So it's almost like he threw from his arms sideways, but also just pitching the ball forward to make that throw. It wasn't an overhand throw. It wasn't also all the way underhanded, but it was a different way to get rid of the football under pressure. We had a very long pocket for Lamar where he finished by hitting Andrews on a 10-yard touchdown between the numbers and left hash. And he beat Humphrey for a touchdown on that play. All right, we had a sack by Jake Hummel. Real nice to see him get an initial pressure and ended up putting the quarterback on the ground without hitting him, and he looked good doing it. And then we saw a combination of Rush and Malik Cunningham for an incomplete pass with Keon Martin in coverage. Now, I want to go to a question I had and try and give my best answer to this, but got a question from Dan Anderson, who I think played a little safety himself. If I recall, he's Danish. And if I have that wrong, I apologize, Dan. But he asked about Keon Martin and how he's looking. I think he's actually looked very good. He got a +1 in the last game. There were kind of multiple reasons for it. One was his own play, which was very good. I think PFF had him for a 30-yard target that I don't agree with. I think that was either Armour Davis or Braid, but Keon Martin was on the field a lot. He played some special teams. He did a good job when he was in there, either mostly at slot, I'll say, in that game. The Ravens do not have a lot of options at slot corner now. Ruben Lowry could possibly play there. Of course, they could go back to Kyle Hamilton playing there if they could find the right safety. But they have Humphrey, and then after that, they do not have a lot. Most of the rest of their guys are really outside corners like JAD, Tampa, Awuzie, Alexander, and Wiggins. They're all 5 of those guys are really outside corners. It's not that none of them could play slot corner. We've seen JAD try to do that. It's that it just wouldn't necessarily be their most natural position. So I think Keon Martin's played well. I think he's right now he's probably a top of roster spot player in terms of depth, which means he could be the first player activated. So he's got a good chance, I would say, this year to see action with the Ravens. So let's continue. We're talking about Keon Martin on that coverage. They went and they did some half field drills. Among those, there was a bomb to Tez Walker who beat Lowry 40 yards down the right sideline for a touchdown. One of the real electric plays of the day. Very long throw. And then we had another Roquan Smith quick tackle. This one was on a little 0-yard throw out to the right. And it's caught by Henry, and he was put on the ground very, very quickly by Roquan. So Lamar lower his arm angle to complete a ball, a blitz off the offensive right side by Kane. And Lamar was able to lower the arm angle and kind of sneak the ball through what profile Kane was showing to hit Hill. And that play went for maybe 0+5 circle. It wasn't a big play, but it was a good get rid of the ball and let somebody make a little yardage out of it situation. When one of the really good passes for Lamar this camp so far, he completed a touchdown pass to Zay Flowers. He was being pressured around the pocket, and he stepped up in it and then out of pressure again. And then he beat Five, who was right at the goal line.
You ever have one of those days where everything's off? Well, Mood can help with that. And let me tell you about Mood. It's the online cannabis brand that is changing the way we handle everything, from stress to sleepless nights, with functional gummies that are 100% federally legal cannabis. Mood launched to make cannabis affordable, accessible, and transparent, while at the same time supporting American farmers growing premium hemp on small pesticide-free farms. Their gummies are next level. Seriously, I've tried a few, and each one feels totally different. The Sleepy Time gummies, out like a light, immediately asleep. The Epic Euphoria, it's perfect when you just need a reset to feel good again. What makes them unique? Mood combines THC with herbs and adaptogens, so you get real targeted effects. You're not going to find this in your typical dispensary. And here's the best part. Mood ships discreetly to most states, offers a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, and right now you get 20% off your first order with the promo code RAVEN. Just head to mood.com. Find your perfect gummy and use the code RAVENS at checkout to save 20%.
One of the good Pittsburgh, I lost my place here. Sorry about that. Oh, I'm sorry. He stepped around the pocket and then he beat Jalen Armour-Davis on a 20-yard crossing throw to Flowers. So that was a nice play. This is the danger of reading notes from your book is you kind of lose yourself sometimes in reading something and telling a story and then having to find your spot again. A real nice pressure from Buchanan on the next play, and then the play still went for a beautiful pass play, one of the best for Rush for the season, and certainly one of Scotty Washington's best plays. He threw up a 30-yard pass down the left sideline. He had Jalen Armour-Davis trailing, and he outleapt him for the football. If you think about Torrey Smith's second touchdown catch against the Broncos in the 2012 postseason, where he adjusted back to the inside to take the ball away from Champ Bailey. It's like that. It was a beautiful thing, even though it was down the opposite sideline. The play I'm talking about to Torrey Smith went down the right sideline, but this was on the left side, and he still was headed in that same direction to the left. We saw Green, Mike Green, this is blow up Vincent to stop a run play. There's a jet sweep. It looked like I saw that Wester had the football anyway. I didn't actually see the jet, the nature of the jet piss, jet toss, jet handoff, whatever it was. But the play was coming right, and Green backed up Vincent into the ball carrier and blew up the play. So really nice play for that. Love to see Green use his power and not just that incredible bendiness that he has. Had a couple of really nice, good plays in a row from number 38, the running back, Myles Gaskin. 2 breakaway runs in a row. Both of them were 10 to 15 yards. Either one of these, by the way, in and of itself, wouldn't have been enough for me to say, okay, I need to tell you about these plays because these were a big deal. Normally, running back runs, I don't think too much of, but the defense kind of got gashed in the practice today. So I thought mentioning some of them is probably just good supporting evidence for what I think I saw. We saw Chidobe Awuzie flagged for defensive pass interference, or maybe it was defensive holding versus Andrews. So it was about 10 yards by the left sideline. The nature of Andrews kind of had Awuzie trailing. It looked like Awuzie kind of tried to be a little bit grabby and got flagged. He didn't spend a lot of time arguing with the official like he did the other day, but this was all these kind of flags are things you want to avoid. We saw a designed run left from Lamar, no doubt about whether he's going to run or pass. This is kind of like a quarterback power move where he broke away into level 2. The crowd went wild. As always, it comes to the caveat that the Baltimore Ravens defense is not trying to put Lamar Jackson on the ground. They're not really trying to touch him at all. They call it a non-contact jersey for a reason, and they take it easy on him. Next play, we had Jackson going to Andrews. It was about 10 yards between the hash marks. It was also between Simpson and Roquan Smith in terms of coverage. So a nice, zone exploitation there. The blitz from Malachi Starks was off the right side and came in just a hair late. But it looked like he's been used as a pass rusher a few times, and I think he's generally gotten pretty good pressure when he's been there. I remember he actually bulled somebody into the cone. But he's at it as well. He might have rushed the passer about 3 times by now in practice. We saw Ali bounce a really nice run off the right side. So he really outraced some various players there. There was a nice reverse run as well. I'm going to get to that in a minute or two here. But we saw Rush overthrow Mitchell Payden about 20 yards down the middle of the field. There are just too many, maybe not wide open throws, but throws where Rush needs to put the ball in the right place to get a completion. It's a slightly harder throw, and he just does not seem to have that touch so far in camp. So late pressure from Malik Ham as Leary threw to Baylor Cup for a 10-yard gain. Then we saw Leary throw to Mitchell Payden, who beat both Hummel and linebacker Jay Higgins, the star of Thursday night's game, over the top. That was a really nice highlight play for both Leary, who threw a vapor trail of a ball, and also for Mitchell Payden, who has not done a whole lot as a hands player this camp. I think he's shown promise as a blocker. Hasn't always shown up in games, by the way. I think the run blocking is going to be an easier thing for him to master than the pass blocking. But I think he's a guy who is on the fringe of the roster right now. He's got a chance to make the team as the third tight end, the fourth if you include Ricard. And the future is now for Zaire Mitchell-Payden. We saw then Dearness Johnson make another nice cutback run left for a big gain. And then number 38, Myles Gaskin, had another breakaway run left, just underscoring the fact the defense is getting gashed for some longer 10-plus yard runs, I would say. Some of these were probably in the 10 to 15 range, and others, were 20 to 30 was more like the distance. All right. We saw a high snap. Now, I did not see who was at center, but on the next play, Corey Bullock was at center. And also that was the time where Linderbaum was kind of behind the play and getting ready to practice on some field goal attempts as the holder. But whoever it was, I think it was probably Bullock, had a high snap. Lamar made a run right on the broken play and did seem to break into space and make something out of it. We saw, a jet run right by Flowers, who always looks great in such gadget play situations, and I still kind of wish they'd use him less in them. There's other people who can do what he do there. There's nobody else who can take the safety down the field and lead him down the primrose path like Zay Flowers can. Then we had the false start where Lamar got angry and spiked the ball. Got another 10 or 15-yard run by Hill, who in this case beat Roquan Smith running left to the edge. And that was one that he won. Roquan, I wouldn't say Roquan has looked slow this year, certainly not in the way that he probably did last year when he might have been carrying more weight. But he does look thick. He looks like he's kind of in shape to tackle. And I'm not sure where he stands on the run. I guess we'll really need some live fire for him. Of course, he didn't play against the Colts in the preseason game, and he did play against the Colts in the live practice, but I don't know really how much he was tested. I was watching the defense, and I know I read whatever notes I had about him, but I don't think it was a whole lot. I do remember him running over two of the Colts running backs in the linebacker versus running back one-on-one drills. So at least that was impressive. So we saw Stout take his kicks with Linderbaum holding. They took about 3 of those from 28 yards. They were all good. Went back to some red zone play. We did see Jackson hit Flowers for a TD from about 5 yards on the left sideline. And this is the case. He beat 27. Of course, that's a very hard amount of grass to defend if you're TJ Tampa. But that was the defender of record on that play. Jackson threw a very long deep out to Bateman, and on that play, Awuzie was in coverage and Starks was coming over, kind of trying to form the bracket. The ball was caught about 25 yards down the field. I may be slightly under on that, if anything, by the right sideline, and nice catch, and looked like he might have been set up for at least a short run after the play, he being Bateman. All right. We had a touchdown pass from Jackson to Andrews that was just a short Y angle play that he took the catch at the goal line from about the 3 or 4 yard line. So it's not like it's a huge passing play, but usually when there's a touchdown and the defense can't really stop it, then it's worth talking about. We had then an attempted pass from Jackson to Keith Kirkwood in the back of the end zone. He kind of lofted the ball up, left it out there a little lazily, and Malachi Starks came over, picked the ball off in the back of the end zone, and ran it back a decent distance as well. But Malachi Starks certainly looking good from that perspective, even though that it was not a great thrown ball, not a well thrown ball thrown with purpose. Let's call it that way. We had a little shovel pass from Lamar to Mark Andrews, and on that play, I thought David Ajabo did a nice job of anticipating it and shutting it down. We had Jackson throw for Flowers, and Humphrey was given a PD at the catch point. He wasn't given a PD. He had a PD at the catch point. Great defense, back of the end zone, high leverage, high value play there. And then we had another sack from Malik Ham. This one was not blown dead. It's a beat the tackle outside again. And it's nice to see Malik string a couple days together here in terms of some positive results. More 11 on 11. This time was a situational drill, so it was a 2-minute drill, effectively 1:39 to go from their own 25. We saw Matabike, he rushed in, and I'm forgetting if what gap he came through, but he got the sack, and that started off that 11 on 11 session. Then it was a defensive offsides by number 94, Delier. And then you had a short pass to Bateman, which would not have gotten the first round. Then Lamar had a very long run up the left that gave the first down again. Then he threw to Tez Walker on a deep out. Kane was there, and so was Awuzie. Neither could make a play on the ball, and it was caught by Walker there. Then he threw a beautiful drop in the bucket kind of throw to DeAndre Hopkins, and this was 40 yards, right circle, in the end zone. Hopkins reacted very well to the football, and he reacted late, so he didn't give away his position relative to the defender. I thought that was very key to that working out. What else we got? We got a sack by Ravenel. At least it looked like. Peebles seemed to also be in there on the pressure on that play. We had a pass from Rush to Washington, and remember, Washington had just had a really nice catch. This time he beat Keandre Jackson on a crossing route for about 10 yards between the hashes. And then the very next play, Rush had his traditional practice-ending interception, throwing the ball for Walker about 40-yard lines down the right circle. And on that play, Keandre Jackson came up with the football. So he definitely redeemed himself for any problem he might have had on the previous play. That's a fairly exhaustive set of 11 on 11 notes from today. And I don't really have anything else, but I will say this. Really appreciate folks listening. If you have questions about camp, something you'd like me to look for at camp, or something you'd like me to ask the coaches at camp, go ahead and hit me up with a DM on Twitter, or use hashtag Film Study Mailbag to lay the question out. And there's a good chance I'll be able to ask it at some point during camp, particularly if it's a Harbaugh question, because he's at the podium about 3 times a week. The other players and coaches, we might get once in all of training camp. So we're through a good portion of this now. 14 out of 25, 56% of the camp practices are in the books. I think there is some Groundhog Day nature to it that I'm hearing from maybe some of the Ravens staff. They have a very long day. By the way, if you really wondered, what does the Ravens PR team do? They get there early in the morning. They work a long day, and they have a thankless job of, getting us waters and bringing a bunch of heavy water out to the field, making sure that a bunch of prima donna reporters don't want to go off and do something they shouldn't do. And so they're always, watching us like children being watched at recess, from some standpoint. Most reporters know what to do, but it does happen that there are people who don't know where they're supposed to go. And oftentimes that's true of photographers who need to be watched very closely not to get pictures of things they shouldn't at camps. Anyway, they have a tough job for that. Then they have to oversee these players standing at the podium and know when to cut off the questioning, which is immediately kind of puts you in conflict with the group of reporters. And after that, they have to go back and they have to transcribe everything that was said and get that out on the website where the Ravens produce it. It's a very long day for those folks. And I have a lot of respect for them. They're all some terrifically nice people that are doing this job. I think that's one of the characteristics they probably hire for. And there's and I want to try and help you with that quality about them that I always appreciate. Anyway, they are one of the things that makes it easy. Anyway, if you have questions, send them by use hashtag Film Study Mailbag. I'll try and get them. I'll try and include them if I think they're appropriate for a coach or player, and I'll try and answer them myself if that's the kind of answer you're looking for. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time on Film Study.